It takes exactly 3 seconds. That is the precise amount of time between the moment a room full of people stops laughing and the moment a 240-pound giant realizes he cannot move a single muscle. We aren't just talking about a fight here. We are watching a massive, inflated ego disintegrate in real time. But the most important part of this story isn't the physical collapse. It is what happens in the silence immediately after those 3 seconds tick by. Because usually, when a man like that is humiliated, violence follows. But on this specific Sunday, something else happened. Something that changed the way every person in that backyard understood power. To understand why this moment matters, you have to understand the era. Picture a humid Sunday afternoon in Bel Air. It's August 1968. The air is heavy. It smells of chlorine, cigarette smoke, and expensive cologne. This is a backyard pool party, the kind where the lines between Hollywood royalty, professional athletes, and martial artists get blurred. The atmosphere is loose, but there is a current of competition underneath the clinking of ice in heavy tumblers. Everyone here is someone, or they are trying to be someone. In the center of the patio, holding court, is Vic. He is a bodybuilder, a man who looks like he was carved out of granite. He is wearing short swim trunks that show off thighs the size of tree trunks. Vic is loud. He is taking up all the oxygen in the conversation, gesturing with a beer in one hand, physically dominating the space around him. He is the definition of conventional American strength in the late 60s, big, wide, and heavy. He believes that mass equals power. And why wouldn't he? Nobody in this zip code has ever told him otherwise. Then there is Bruce. He is standing in the corner near the sliding glass doors, nursing a drink. In contrast to Vic, Bruce looks almost fragile. He is wearing a simple tank top. He weighs maybe 135 pounds soaking wet. Next to Vic's massive frame, he looks like a teenager. But if you look closer, if you look past the size, you see the difference. Bruce isn't posturing. He isn't trying to be the loudest voice in the circle. He is just observing. He has that terrifying predatory stillness that he would later become famous for. But in 1968, to a guy like Vic, Bruce is just a small actor trying to break into a big man's game. The trouble starts, as it usually does, with boredom. Vic needs to prove a point. He's been telling stories about lifting, about brawls, about raw power. He catches Bruce's eye. Maybe he feels threatened by Bruce's calm. Maybe he just wants a laugh. Vic calls him out. He starts mocking the dancing of martial arts. He calls it choreography. He calls it fake. It doesn't work in the street, Vic says, his voice booming enough for the whole party to hear. All that waving your hands around. If a guy my size gets a hold of you, it's over. The chatter at the party dies down. The music seems to fade into the background. This is the moment where social etiquette usually kicks in. Usually the smaller man laughs it off, makes a self-deprecating joke, and diffuses the tension. That is what you do in Bel Air. You don't make a scene. But Bruce doesn't laugh. He doesn't look down. He smiles, but it isn't a submissive smile. It's the smile of a predator who has just spotted a limp. He puts his drink down on a glass table with a deliberate, soft click. He walks over to Vic. The size difference is comical. Vic towers over him. The bodybuilder is grinning, looking around at the other guests, inviting them to share in the joke. He thinks this is a game. He thinks he is about to put the little man in his place. Bruce speaks softly. He doesn't challenge Vic to a fight. He doesn't offer to spar. He proposes something that sounds absolutely ridiculous. He offers a test of mechanics. You say size is everything, Bruce says, so let's test it. Bruce extends his right arm straight out in front of him. He clenches his fist, thumb up. He locks his structure. He tells Vic the rule. It is simple. Vic, with all his leverage, all his mass, and all that muscle he's been bragging about, just has to bend Bruce's arm, that's it. He doesn't have to hit him, he doesn't have to tackle him, he just has to use both of his massive hands to push Bruce's forearm toward his chest. If he can bend the arm, Bruce admits he is a fraud. He admits the martial arts are just dancing. Vic laughs. It's a wet, throaty laugh. He looks at the crowd, shaking his head. He hands his beer to a bystander. He steps forward, planting his feet. You can see him calculating the physics in his head. He outweighs Bruce by over 100 pounds. He can bench press a small car. This isn't a challenge, it's a formality. The crowd tightens, they step closer, forming a circle. The air in Bel Air suddenly feels much hotter. They are expecting to see Bruce's arm collapse like a twig. They are expecting the inevitable triumph of the big man over the small man. Vic reaches out. His hands are huge, wrapping entirely around Bruce's wrist and forearm. He gets a good grip. He winks at a producer standing nearby. He thinks this is going to be over in a split second. He thinks he is going to snap the limb back and laugh about it over burgers later. Bruce doesn't flinch. He doesn't brace his feet in a wide stance. He stands naturally. He looks relaxed. He breathes in. He breathes out. "Go ahead," Bruce whispers. Vic squeezes. He applies a little pressure, expecting the arm to fold. It doesn't move. Vic frowns. He applies more pressure. He engages his triceps. He pushes harder. Bruce's arm remains frozen in space, as if it were a steel beam welded to the patio floor. The smile vanishes from Vic's face. He realizes, with a jolt of genuine confusion, that the resistance isn't normal. He grunts. He shifts his weight. He engages his shoulders, his back, his legs. He starts to heave, and this is where the dynamic shifts. The party guests aren't drinking anymore. They are staring at the veins popping out on Vic's neck. They are watching a giant exert enough force to snap a baseball bat, pushing against a man who is standing there, looking casually at the horizon, completely unbothered. What nobody in that backyard realizes, not Vic, not the producers, not even the athletes, is that they have just walked into a trap. They are looking at strength, but they are blind to structure, and in the next few seconds everything they think they know about power is about to be dismantled. Vic's face turns a violent shade of purple. He is growling now, a low, animalistic sound of pure frustration. He is pushing so hard that his boots are actually sliding backward on the damp concrete. He is fighting for his reputation. He is fighting for every time he told someone that size wins. And Bruce? Bruce hasn't broken a sweat. He shifts his hip. Just 1 inch. It's a microscopic adjustment. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing. But mechanically, Bruce has just changed the fulcrum of the lever. He aligns his skeletal structure with the ground, creating a direct line of force that bypasses his own muscles and anchors directly into the earth. He isn't holding up Vic's weight with his shoulder. He is holding it up with the planet. Vic feels the change immediately. His eyes go wide. The resistance didn't just hold, it hardened. And then Bruce looks at him, not with anger, not with arrogance, but with a calm curiosity, and he pushes back. Not a shove. Just a slight extension of the elbow. The giant is fighting physics, and physics is winning. Vic's knees buckle. His own strength rebounds back into him, vibrating through his skeleton until his balance evaporates. He stumbles. He gasps, and then he collapses. The 240-pound man hits the ground, looking like a confused child who just learned that gravity exists. The backyard freezes. The silence is absolute. It lasts exactly 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. This is the moment where most fighters would gloat. This is where the ego usually takes a victory lap. Bruce has every right to laugh. He has every right to say, "I told you so," or to mock the man who just spent 20 minutes insulting him. The crowd is waiting for it. They are waiting for the verbal knockout blow. But Bruce does something strange. He extends a hand, he reaches down, grabs Vic's massive wrist, and pulls him up. He doesn't insult the man's strength, he validates it. He looks Vic in the eye and says, "You are incredibly strong, but you are using your strength against yourself." The tension in the air breaks. It doesn't shatter, it dissolves. Bruce turns a public execution into a private lesson. Right there, in front of the producers and the athletes, he starts explaining the mechanics of the lever. He touches his own elbow, then Vic's shoulder, showing him the difference between force and structure. He shows him that being rigid is not the same as being strong. Vic is panting, sweat dripping off his nose, but he isn't angry anymore. He's listening. For the first time all afternoon, the giant is quiet. He is nodding. The humiliation didn't destroy him because Bruce didn't let it. Bruce offered him a way out. He offered him dignity. Years later, that bodybuilder would tell people about that Sunday in Bel Air. He wouldn't talk about it as the day he got beat up by a smaller man. He would talk about it as the day he actually started learning. He realized that all the muscle in the world is useless if you don't know where to apply it. He realized that true power isn't about volume, it's about precision. And that leaves us with a heavy question for today. It's easy to look at this story and think it's just about martial arts, but it's not. It's about the architecture of your own life. Where are you mistaking volume for power? Maybe it's in your career where you think working 14 hours a day is the same as being effective. Maybe it's in your relationships, where you think being the loudest voice in the argument means you're winning. Or maybe it's in your own head, where you think forcing yourself to be tough is better than being adaptable. And more importantly, look at how you handle victory. When you finally win your battles, when you prove someone wrong, when you have the upper hand. What do you do with that moment? Do you use it to destroy your opponent, to feed your ego, to make sure everyone knows you're the best? Or do you extend a hand? Bruce Lee could have destroyed a man's reputation that afternoon. Instead, he built a student. He understood that the ultimate display of power isn't destruction, it's control. And real control means you don't have to humiliate anyone to prove you're the strongest person in the room. So the next time you feel like you need to flex, the next time you feel like you need to prove how big you are, remember the giant in the backyard. Remember that he lost. And remember the quiet man in the corner who knew that stillness is the loudest thing in the world. Who are you underestimating just because they are quiet? And who are you really fighting?